Greetings, family, royals, nobles, heirs, and heiresses. Apache King here, once again, coming back at you with a follow-up to bubble-headed defense attorney Natalie Trick Lady, in which she is spreading more dirt on the Moors by adding her deceptive commentary to another one of these Roman Inquisitionist courts. Natalie Burrell's latest YouTube is entitled Judge Mutes Moorish Americans in Zoom Court. First of all, what the hell is a Zoom court? This is the sort of thing that they make up when they deal in the wonderful world of legalese and deception. Under the supreme law of the land of North America, specifically dealing with the issue of courts, which is very serious, there are no courts designated as family court, drug court, probate court, traffic court, etc., etc., etc. Article 3, Section 1 of the Constitution for the United States of America Republic specifically says the judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. One Supreme Court, and it is specifically designated by the name as Supreme Court, and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. And if the Dejure Congress of the United States of America Republic of 1789 ordained and established any inferior courts, there would be a delegation of authority order, otherwise known as the initials DOAO, which would be available for inspection and retrieval, which should be entered into that court case for the record and on the record before that session begins. Is tricked out attorney Natalie Burrell disclosing this to you all? Of course she's not, because tricked out Natalie Burrell only supports legal trickery and legal slickery, in which absolutely all of these unconstitutional Walmart, Radio Shack, state corporation courts deal in, which is ultimately what keeps Natalie Burrell paid like the Jezebel trick vampire that she is. In order for a court which has been ordained under the supreme law of the land of North America to lawfully operate, notice I said lawfully operate instead of legally operate, there are certain mandatory things that must be established. The very first off the top is number one, a person's status. Okay, status, status, which is synonymous with state of mind, estate. You hear the word estate and status. Okay, which is a person's status, in which a person's status determines whether or not there is, number two, jurisdiction over the person. When jurisdiction over the person is properly established, that then determines, number three, the court venue, which is the possible place for the lawsuit to proceed or the place that the person will be tried. These three things must be established before you can get to number four, the subject matter of the case, in order to proceed finally to number five, adjudication. So all of these must be established before they even discuss subject matter. In these legal trickery and legal slickery courts of deception, as well as the many various third-party commercial mercenary Roman soldier policy officers, they go straight to the subject matter. Is tricked out Natalie Burrell disclosing any of this? What is jurisdiction? What is the definition of jurisdiction? The word jurisdiction is comprised of two words, juris and diction. Juris basically means law, and diction basically means to speak. So when you hear Moors or Cushites or anybody else claim that none of these courts or police have jurisdiction over them, what they are saying is that these courts and or police do not have the authority to speak law to them. But we all know that in modern day Rome, in which the United Snakes and all of its subsidiaries represent, they represent, let me say that again, but we all know that in modern day Rome, in which the United Snakes and all of its subsidiaries represent, might is right, and they can shoot or maim or kill you on the side of the road if they like, and actually play judge, jury, and executioner without any evidence of a real crime. This brings us directly back to this Zoom court bullshit in which Natalie Burrell was so psychotically excited about, who is trying to railroad this Moorish brother directly under terror, threat, duress, and coercion. In this particular video by tricked out Natalie Burrell, she came out on a platform called Natalie Lawyer Chick, which provides legal analysis, political commentary, and celebrity opinion. This Natalie Burrell's opening statement tells you that she will be discussing popular topics through a legal lens. Everything is based on legal, not lawful, in their world. Keep in mind that legalese pertains strictly to what? Commercial codes, corporate policy, artificial rules, fictitious regulations, color of law ordinances, and Wizard of Oz statutes, etc. Then, this dizzy, tricked out, bubble-headed attorney professes that she is a criminal defense attorney. Is this Natalie Burrell trick even disclosing what a crime is? Driving without a license is not a crime in the real world of law. Driving under absolutely any circumstance is always commercial/corporate activity. And if driving is commercial/corporate activity, then the only type of person that can be charged is a commercial/corporate person, which is an artificial, fictitious, legal entity strawman person, more familiarly known and designated as a driver. As we said earlier, we will now be doing critical analysis, shall I say, as I said earlier, I will now be doing critical analysis on this latest YouTube video by Natalie Burrell entitled Judge Mutes Moorish American in Zoom Court. Okay, the video starts out with the unnatural non-American Euro-Albion so-called Judge Jeffrey Middleton asking the standard $1 million commercial question, Mr. Morrow Bay, are you there? Okay, the use of the pronoun you in these de facto courts is a double-ended question which serves as their greatest weapon. Immediately, what is supposed to be done by the question, are you there, is to instantly place on the record of that court, no matter how corrupt that court is, clarification what you is being questioned. In general, there is only one kind of you, and that is a natural flesh and blood sentient being, you. But within these unconstitutional de facto state corporation courts, which are a special operation, there is a new legally concocted person, which is nothing more than an artificial, fictitious, legal entity, commercial/corporate strawman person. Okay, this is the fraudulent artifice person in which tricked out Natalie Burrell makes her living off of. As you see, the word artifice is the root of the word artificial. What is the definition of artifice? A fraud or cunning device used to accomplish some evil. Semicolon usually implies craftiness or deceitfulness. Fraud or cunning device? So, tricked out, bubble-headed Natalie Burrell deals in fraud. That straw man in which Natalie Burrell makes her crooked living off of is incriminating evidence of bearing false witness, which basically means a lie and ultimately makes Natalie Burrell an accomplice to a crime. And I bet you on everything that I own that tricked out Natalie Burrell is a professed Christian, which to me equates to criminal, as all I see coming from that pseudo religion and dogmatic theology is criminality. The case that is being fraudulently presented is the people versus Samuel R. Perdue. Who the hell is the people? The people simply cannot be a valid plaintiff, as the plural identity known as the people is not a he or she person that constructed an affidavit that he or she have been injured, which would be the very basis of any controversy which would validate a proper case in law or at law. One of the very next issues to establish in these crooked de facto commercial courts is the fact that if the case is criminal, civil, commercial, or whatever. The supreme law of the land of North America specifically says that one has a right to face their accuser. A plaintiff listed as the people, or state of this or state of that, is definitely not a criminal case. There is absolutely no disclosure in these courts. Non-disclosure is fraud. What I would have done right off the bat in these corrupt courts is to immediately demand that the governor / chief executive officer of that illegitimate de facto state corporation, along with the president / CEO of the parent de facto illegitimate entity, the United States Federal Corporation, which was created in 1871. Even the many various policy soldiers who either gave you that commercial debt instrument known as a speeding ticket or gangbanged on you and kidnapped you in order to extort you out of fiat notes did not disclose their commercial operation in which they are required to do in standard business. They are not disclosing because they are doing crooked, shady, fraudulent business here in North America. Another reason that they are fraudulently not disclosing is because they are so confident that the sheeple people citizens are either too dumb or too lazy to know what is going on. If you notice in the above mentioned video, this non-American Euro-Albion crooked so-called judge Jeffrey Middleton did manage to disclose to everyone that the Moor's mother named him Samuel R. Perdue, as opposed to this Moor brother now referring to himself as Samir Siraj Morro Bay. They will always try to get you to answer to that fictitious strawman name on the state birth certificate, and that's BERTH, a state birth certificated security instrument, because they know that that name is a trust in which they are tapping into monetarily every time that they get you, the flesh and blood person, to serve as surety for an accommodation party to that fictitious person. Commercial instruments such as your birth certificate, social security card, driver's license, voter registration, fishing license, marriage license, etc., are all what are known as adhesion contracts, in which you hear and see the word adhesive, in which something is sticking to you in those commercial agreements in which you are not aware of, which ultimately means that adhesion contracts are fraud. Is Natalie Burrell telling you that? I don't think so. Absolutely, all of these commercial instrument adhesion contracts are banking instruments which have been hypothecated in order to satisfy a bogus, fictitious debt to the Jesuit-trained Jew bankers and monetary gangsters such as the U.S. Central Bank, otherwise known as the Federal Reserve. The artificial fictitious person on that birth certificate is an unconstitutional 14th Amendment legal entity person, which has no mind, no soul, no physical body, no consciousness, no divinity, etc. The plan from the very beginning was always about getting you to lose your divinity away from your magnificent creator / creatress of the awesome universe. And when they got you to do that, you are now void of all spiritual protections as well as any national and international protections at law. When one is in their natural proper person, they do not ever need to be represented, nor will they ever represent the straw man, nor will they ever proceed pro se. A natural person in their proper status always presents themselves in a real de jure court of law, which will be in a proper venue. Only that artificial, fictitious legal entity, commercial / corporate straw man person needs to be represented because it has been revenued unknowingly to a de facto, imaginary, make-believe jurisdictional venue. Keep in mind exactly what an attorney / attorney is, which is Natalie Burrell's chosen profession of choice. An attorney / attorney is basically an agent to a foreign power in North America, in which that foreign power transferred lordship powers to, in a limited capacity, as agent in an agency relationship, to represent the U.S. 14th Amendment legal entity public citizen person, which always ultimately serves as the defendant. Attorney's first allegiance always is to who? The courts. Not anybody else, to these de facto courts. So other names for the 14th Amendment legal entity public citizen person is client, constituent, taxpayer, U.S. citizen, resident, or shall I say U.S. resident, U.S. subject, artificial person, fictitious person, imaginary person, public person, federal person, strawman, debtor, transmitting utility, conduit, dummy, legal entity, commercial person, corporate person, U.S. vessel, U.S. trader, U.S. merchant, artifice, defendant, trust, beneficiary, customer, consumer, etc. Okay, the new artificial / fictitious legal entity corporate U.S. public citizen person now has a peculiar standing or lack thereof. A few examples being: 1. May not by law exercise a First Amendment right to question the validity of a United States obligation pursuant to U.S. Constitution 14th Amendment, Section 4. Number 2 means citizen with a small c of the United States, which is in all caps, and not a person generally, nor a citizen, which is a capital C, of a state republic. Number 3 is analogous to the term subject in the common law. Number 4 is a person as defined under Title 26 U.S.C. Section 7701 subsection A, which includes a corporation, trust, partnership, etc. Number 5, pursuant to Internal Revenue Code Section 6109 subsection D, is an individual issued a Social Security account number for purposes of Section 205 subsection C, subsection 2 subsection A of the Social Security Act. And number 6 may be classified as what? Property, as a franchise of the federal government and as a individual entity. You can see Wheeling Steel Corporation versus Fox. That's 298 U.S. 193. So basically, how did all of this come about? Or shall I say, basically how all of this came about, which is something else that tricked out Natalie Burrell is not going to disclose. In 1871, U.S. Congress created a corporation as evidenced by recordation in the United States Statutes at Large, 41st Congress, Section 3, Chapter 2, February 21st, 1871, where one finds an act to provide a government for the District of Columbia, a body corporate for municipal purposes. That's the first paragraph, in which 7 years later this act was further clarified in the 45th Congress, Section 2, Chapter 180, June 11, 1878, where it reads, an act providing for a permanent form of government for the District of Columbia. The permanent seat of government of the United States shall remain and continue a municipal corporation. That's first paragraph. So, in overall conclusion of this particular broadcast, absolutely all the United States courts are nothing but modern-day slave auction blocks. And Natalie Burrell is a modern-day house negress helper of the slave catcher as the attorney slash esquire. And we all know that an esquire is an English title of nobility. Now, if the Moors in America had a treasury, a court, and a military, in other words, a functional nation, a tricked out sister like Natalie Burrell and her tricked out husband would have been beheaded. Natalie Burrell is a proud agent of the Mother Harlot Church of Rome, which by default makes Natalie Burrell a harlot herself, as it takes a harlot to be an agent for a harlot. This goes for a husband. So, but Rome is fallen, as no one wants to fornicate with the filthy mother of all harlots anymore, in which some refer to as Mystery Babylon. So once again, Apache King with another one from the arsenal. I'm out.